friends. New week, new story. This week's story is Pop's Bridge. Now, let's take a look at some of the vocabulary that I thought we might need to go over before we read the story. What's this word?
Crew.
Crew. Have you ever heard that word before?
Yeah.
What do you think crew is, Amy?
Like a pack or something that stays together.
Something that stays together. Okay, what are you thinking?
Like a group of people that work together,
Okay,
like partners, you know how they work together.
Okay.
they're Crew.
are you raising your hand or no?
I was in college as well.
I know, he's a word thief.
No, I'm not.
How about the word tide? Tide. Raylin? What's that? Tidy? No, not tidy. Amy?
Like you're kind of tied on like a map from that's kind of hard.
That would, it sounds the same, but it's spelled differently. That's T-I-E-D.
Yeah. Like tide that like a big wave, that tide,
Okay,
like a tidal wave.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Is that the one?
Mm-hmm. What about cling? Cling.
Like if someone's giving you a hug and they won't let go.
Okay, that would be an example.
My brother does that to my
Clean, like you annoys. Clean.
Oh, that a noise. Okay.
Yeah, like
You were thinking the cling noise too. Haley? Okay. All right. We'll talk about that one in a minute.
That's the most
Balancing. Have you ever had to do that before? Balancing. Okay, so if you've done it, then what is it?
like you tried not to fall.
Trying not to fall. Okay.
Standing on something like that kind of slow on, trying to stay on them.
Trying to stay on something even if it's moving a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like standing on something, walking on something really thin, trying not to fall off.
Walking on something really thin, she said, trying not to fall off.
I figured out what I was gonna say.
We'll come back to it later. Okay.
like balance, that you're trying to get your balance when you're still trying to work on the bridge.
Okay. How about foggy? Is it ever foggy here? So what does it mean if it's foggy? Raylin?
Like the place you can't really see it all.
Okay, it's hard to see because what is fog? What's it from?
Cloud.
From clouds.
And
Makes
on
it
the
hard
ground.
to see then. All right. What about painter? What is a painter?
Like someone that like grabs like a brush, like paint your house.
Okay, someone that uses a brush, or sometimes they use those rollers, or sometimes it might be a spray thing to paint a house. Okay. Do they only paint houses? No, they can paint all kinds of
Fences.
things. How about the word skywalker? Connor?
It means like you're high in the sky and still building like a. So the people who built the buildings in New York, you know, they're really high.
Mm-hmm.
Those are called skywalkers because they work in the sky.
Oh, okay. What about excitement?
Happy, joyful, good.
Happy, joyful, feeling good.
Sad.
You kind of thinking the same sort of things. You have something different?
Excited to like celebrate to finish the bridge because
Okay.
it says bridge in the
All right.
title.
What about stretch? Stretch. Raylan? You're gonna have to talk up or speak up. Okay, so you're stretching your body. So what does stretch mean to do?
Stretch something to stretch your body.
But we're using the word stretch as part of our explanation. Let's not use the word stretch to tell us what stretch is. If something stretched or stretches, Natalia?
You like move your body in a certain way.
Okay, maybe move your body in a certain way. What are you thinking?
Like spreading.
Spreading. Okay.
Like if you're pulling a rubber band out.
So to stretch, you could be like pulling it. Okay. Let's move on to disappears. Disappears. Connor?
Disappears means like something just vanished.
It just vanishes.
Like you look away from the baby and then you turn around and then you look back and then it's gone.
Okay, it's gone. It vanishes. All right. Okay, so those are the vocabulary that I thought would be important to go along with this story. And what we'll do after we read the story is we're gonna do like a vocabulary sort where I have the words on one paper and the definitions on another paper, and you're gonna have to match them up. What word goes with which definition, okay? But we'll do that after we read it so that we hear for sure how these words are being used in the story. Because can some words have more than one meaning? Yes, we've talked about that before. All right, so turn in your reading book to the contents page. Remember where that's located? At the beginning of the book. And we're still in Unit 1. Unit 1. But this week we are on where it has the red 4, the lesson 4. I don't think the number is red, but like the little banner looking flag is red.
It's one number.
The number's white,
Yeah.
the banner, most of it is red. All right, so lesson 4. Now, vocabulary and context. We already kind of did that, but then I added some extra words that I thought we needed to talk about. So let's go down to, let me jump ahead in Amy's really quickly. Let's go ahead and jump to where the story actually begins on that title page. So it's historical fiction for the genre, but then across from there, what page does it say we need to turn to?
110.
100. From the actual story itself, Pop's Bridge, historical fiction, 114. All right, the author of this story is Eve Bunting. This is the first time Eve Bunting ever saw the Golden Gate Bridge was in 1958. On that day, she had moved to California from Ireland. Is Ireland part of the United States? No. It's a country in Europe. So she had to cross the ocean to get into the United States, where she had been born. I thought it the most beautiful bridge I had ever seen, she recalls. Then the illustrator is C.F. Payne. C.F. Payne, whose initials stand for Chris Fox, is famous for drawing people with very large heads, noses, and ears. Sometimes Payne uses friends as models for his drawings, as he did in Pups Bridge. So let's take a look at some of the illustrations that he has in this book, and let's see, do they have large heads, large noses, large ears in a lot of those illustrations?
Yeah.
Right there on the title page, they definitely have larger heads and noses and ears. What about some of the other pages? I definitely notice it on 125, 126. Oh yes, definitely on 129 and 100. Oh my gosh, it's all through the story, isn't it? 130, 131. Yeah. So a lot of the people that he draws are actually his friends and probably some of his family. But do you think they really have big heads, big noses, and big ears?
No.
Or does he just kind of accentuate those features?
Accentuate.
Yeah. Alright. Well, did you kind of do a quick picture walk as you were looking through for the big heads, the big noses, and the big ears?
Yes.
Alright, historical fiction. Fiction means it's true or not true. Fiction.
Not true.
Not true. But they're saying that it's historical. What does historical mean? Amy?
It means like.
Not
It
sure.
means like it can happen, but it hasn't happened.
But if something is a part of, what word do you kind of hear in historical? Do you hear a part of a word? What do you? History. Historical, history. What does history mean? Right now?
Pretty short.
Or
No.
it's already happened?
It already happened.
It's already happened. So historical fiction is something has already happened, but the story that they have written is not a true story, but parts of it could be. So do you see the bridge on the title page 115? Do you see that bridge? That is the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, California. That is a real bridge. People really did have to build it. So this story is kind of talking about those true facts that the bridge was really built, but these people in the story didn't actually build or help build that bridge. Does that make sense? So it's talking about the Golden Gate Bridge being built. That's what makes it historical. Fiction is because this isn't really about people that built the bridge. All right. So what I'm going to have you do, look at the essential question in the bottom right-hand page or corner of page 115. How can two bridges be alike and different? So that means, you want to set that on the floor, please? That means that we are going to be comparing how they are alike and contrasting things that are different. So that's going to be one of our skills we work on this week. Alrighty. I am going to, because my voice is kind of crackly today and I don't know why. Whoops, I hit the wrong thing. We're gonna just listen to the story be read to us. I'm not gonna have the pictures up here because they're kind of blurry when I have to make them bigger. So you're gonna follow along in your book with the story that's being read to you from the board, and I think I have the volume up so that you can hear it. So they're gonna read the title page first, 115, and as soon as they're done saying illustrated by C.F. Payne, turn your page, okay?
Pop's Bridge by Eve Bunting. Illustrated by C.F. Payne. My pop is building the Golden Gate Bridge. Almost every day after school, Charlie Shue and I go to Fort Point and watch. The bridge will stretch across the bay from San Francisco to Marin. People said this bridge couldn't be built. Some call it the Impossible Bridge. They say the bay is too deep, the currents too strong, the winds blowing in from the ocean too fierce. But I know my pop can do it. Whenever I say he's building the bridge, Mom laughs. There's a crew of more than 1,000 men working on that bridge, Robert, including Charlie's dad, she reminds me. I know that, but I just shrug. To me, it's Pop's bridge. Pop's a high iron man, balancing on the slatted catwalks, spinning and bending the cables. He climbs so high that sometimes clouds come down around his shoulders. When the fog rolls in, he disappears completely. That's why the high iron men are called skywalkers. Charlie's dad is a painter. The painters start work long before the bridge is even finished. My pop says if it weren't for them, the bridge would rust away. But I think he's just saying that to be nice. The skywalkers have the most important job of all. At Fort Point, I look for Pop through the binoculars Mom lends me. The workers look alike in their overalls and swabby hats, but I can always find my Pop because of the red kerchief he ties at his throat. It's our own scarlet signal. I don't worry much about him on days when the sun sparkles on the water, when sailboats skim below. It's so beautiful, I can forget that it's dangerous too. But when the wind blows through the Golden Gate, the men cling to the girders like caterpillars on a branch. On foggy days, my hands sweat on the binoculars. Where is he? When I find him, I try not to look away, as though the force of my eyes can keep him from falling. At my house, Charlie and I work on a jigsaw puzzle Mom bought us. When it's done, it will show how an artist thinks the bridge will look. Charlie and I work on the puzzle most every day. Bending over it, I feel like I'm building the real thing, along with Pop. I'm a skywalker too. We're almost done, Charlie says. I wonder which of us will put in the last piece. I shrug. But what he says makes me think. My Pop built that bridge. He should set the last puzzle piece in place. That's only fair, even though Charlie might think his dad should do it. When Charlie isn't looking, I slip one of the pieces into my pocket. Later, I hide it in my room. I'm saving it for Pop. The Impossible Bridge is nearly finished. One evening, Mom and Pop and I walk down to Fort Point. The bridge hangs between stars and sea. It's like a giant harp, my pop says. A harp for the angels to play. I look up at him, and I can tell this wasn't just a job to my pop. He loves the bridge. In San Francisco, there is great excitement. Everyone is waiting for opening day. Charlie and I have watched nearly every bit of the bridge go up. We saw the two spans come together from opposite directions. We saw them meet. We saw the roadway go in, and my pop did it. No one can be as proud as I am, not even Charlie. After all, my dad is a skywalker. And then one day something terrible happens. Charlie and I are watching as the scaffolding pulls away from the bridge. There's a noise like a train wreck as the scaffolding crashes down into the safety net. The net tears loose and men go with it into the swirling tide. I can't breathe. I can't think. But then I look hard through the binoculars and see Pop still on the bridge, his red kerchief whipping. Pop, I whisper in relief. Beside me, Charlie is screaming, "Where's my dad? Where's my dad?" We had seen him working close to that scaffolding. I can't see him now. We'll find him, I promise. We have to. I sweep the binoculars up and down the bridge cables, looking at every painter hanging high on his Jacob's ladder or swinging in a bosun's chair like a knot on a rope. "Be there, Mr. Shu," I plead, and then spot him. "Over by that cross girder," I yell. Charlie fumbles for the binoculars. I help him. He looks where I point. "He's there. He's safe," Charlie gasps. The next day, we find out that only 2 of the 12 men in the water were saved. I think and think about that day. At night, half asleep, I see the bridge shake. I hear the crash. One of those men in the water could have been Pop or Charlie's dad. I finally understand, and I feel ashamed. Equal work, equal danger for skywalkers and for painters. The work goes on. A new safety net is put in place. Pop says there's less talking and joking now among the men. There's a remembering. But the bridge must be finished, and at last it is. We watch through Mom's binoculars as the golden spike is drilled in at the center of the main span. Now the celebration can begin. On opening day, no cars are allowed. Thousands of people walk and dance and roller skate across the bridge, including us. I wear Pop's kerchief around my neck. There's a man riding a unicycle. There's another on stilts. Navy biplanes fly above the great steel towers. Battleships and cruisers sail below the bridge and into San Francisco Bay. Wind strums its music through the stretch of the cables, and I think of my Pop's harp. That night, our family has our own party with Charlie and his dad. There's stewed chicken and a Chinese noodle dish Charlie's dad made, and a snickerdoodle pie. The jigsaw puzzle sits on the coffee table with a gap in the middle. "I've searched and searched for that missing piece," my mother says. "A good thing we didn't leave our bridge with a space like that," Mr. Shu says. Pop chuckles. "We'd be working still." It's time. I slip upstairs to get the hidden puzzle piece, then find the scissors and cut the piece carefully in half. I go back down and put a half piece in Mr. Shu's hand and the other in my Pop's. "Finish it," I say. "It's your bridge. It belongs to both of you." My mother raises her eyebrows and Charlie says, "Hey, where?" But I just watch as the 2 pieces fit in so perfectly, so smoothly. Team effort, my pop says. We raise our glasses of sarsaparilla to celebrate the laborers and riveters, the carpenters and the painters and the skywalkers, all the men who worked together to build the most beautiful bridge in the world.
Okay. So, who's telling this story? Who's the person that's...
Pops' Bridge,
Whoops.
written by Eve Bunting
We
and
don't need to read
illustrated
it
by
again?
C.F. Payne.
Okay. Who's telling this story? Connor?
The boy.
The boy. What's his name? Remember? Look back toward the beginning. I think his mom calls him by his name toward the beginning. Haley? Robert. So Robert is the one little boy. Who's the other little boy? Lucas? Charlie. Okay, so Robert and Charlie. Why are they always watching the bridge? Raylan? So they what? So they can look out for their dads, is that what you said? Okay. Because what are their dads doing on that bridge? Natalia?
They are building it and they are just
Okay. And how many different people are working on that bridge? Do you remember what Robert's mom had said toward the beginning?
like almost like 1,000.
Yeah, like over 1,000 people were working on that bridge. Friends, that's more people than what live in Morrill. That would be like every single person in Morrill, plus a few hundred more working on a bridge. Is that a big bridge then? If that many people are working on it? Yes, it is massive. All right, so think about Robert, the boy that's telling the story. Would you say he is proud or embarrassed of his dad working on the bridge? Proud, right? Very proud. And to me, I got the impression that he thought his dad's work was more important than anybody else's work on that bridge. What do you think? Did he feel like his dad's work was more important than Charlie's dad's work?
Yeah.
At least toward the beginning of the story? Did his feelings about that change? When did his feelings change? Because for a long while, he thought that because his dad was, what was his dad's job title? The Skywalker. Okay, and what is Charlie's dad?
Painter.
Okay, so, Amy?
He thought that he thought that his dad was like really more important. And then when the bridge almost broke, like some of the Skywalkers and painters died and 2 of them survived.
Right. Only 2 of the 12 people, when that part of the bridge collapsed, only 2 of those 12 workers lived. So that means the rest of them, they died while they were trying to work on this bridge. And it was then that Robert was like, man, that could have been my dad. Thankfully it wasn't his dad, and thankfully it wasn't Charlie's dad, but it made him realize it's all dangerous work. Okay, so with our time that we have left, I am going to put you into 2 groups. Okay, so that there will be 4 in one group and 3 in the other group. And we're just gonna be talking about the vocabulary words that we had gone over before the story, and then you probably heard a lot of them as we were reading the story. And I'm just gonna see if you can figure out definitely what their meanings are by matching the word with the correct definition. Okay? So just leave your books on your desk.